right, friends, this is it, the finale, the last chapter of Shiloh season. So here we go, chapter 16. Or take my gum out, set it on my knee. The next day, though, just because I asked, Dad and I get in the Jeep and drive over to Judd's. Seems strange to park across the road from his trailer and not be greeted by a bunch of yelping, snarling hounds. November sun is shining down on Middle Island Creek, and you'd never think that inside that trailer is a man as wretched and mean and sad as a man can get. His grass has been mowed again, probably for the last time this year, but all his shades are pulled like he don't want 1 ounce of sunlight trying to sneak its way into his house and cheer him up. We start across the road to where Judd's board sidewalk begins. The trailer door opens. There is Judd, big cast on his leg, holding his shotgun. "What do you want, Ray Preston?" he calls, still wearing a neck brace, I see. We stop dead still. "Marty and I just wanted to stop by and say hello," Dad calls back. "Well, I don't need no hellos," Judd says. He's not exactly pointing the gun at us, but he's not pointing it away neither. "Do you need any groceries, Judd? Anything I can pick up for you?" Dad asks. "I don't need nothing." "Well, okay, we're just concerned about you. Everyone is." Judd gives this little laugh, so weak you could hardly call it that, and closes the door again. "Well, son," says Dad, "looks like that's that." But something in me just don't give up. If kindness has to be learned, then maybe Judd's got some lessons coming. If I don't try, and Judd ever heard Shiloh, how am I going to feel then? As soon as we get home, I say, "Ma, you suppose we could fix up something every day to leave there on the steps along with Judd's mail? Something to eat?" "I think that's a fine idea, Marty," she says. "When I was making bread this morning, I was thinking of giving him some." That evening, I wrap up a loaf for Judd, and next day, Dad takes it along with him and puts it right outside Judd's door. On Tuesday, though, Dad reports that the bread he'd left on Monday is still there. Judd had taken in his mail, but left the bread outside. And you know what I'm thinking? It's not just the world he's mad at. He's mad at himself. Oh, it's partly that he don't want to take any kindness from the Prestons, because he doesn't know how to give any back in return. But when a man's sunk about as low as he can get, I bet he feels he don't even have a right to that bread. "What did you do with the chicken I wrapped up for him this time?" I asked Dad. "I just set it right there beside the bread," Dad tells me. "Well, I thought, just like John Collins says, you leave it there long enough, he'll get hungry." On Wednesday, Dad says that both the bread and the chicken are gone. Judd could have thrown him out, of course, but sometimes you got to take chances. "What kind of mail does he get?" I asked my dad. "Oh, magazines mostly, guns and ammo, shooting times, junk mail, bills." "He ever get any letters?" None that I can remember." After the first week of leaving food outside Judd's door, I decide I'll start sending a little note under the rubber band on the food package. This is the note. "Last month, a bee was chasing Shiloh. You should have seen him. Was running and looking behind him both at the same time, and he ran into a bush. Thought that bee would drive him right down to the creek. I think Shiloh put his nose too close to a nest somewhere. He'll be a little more careful after this. Marty." We weren't the only ones taking food to Judd. He heard that some of the neighbors had been leaving casseroles and cakes outside his door from time to time. The food seemed to disappear, so we figure either Judd was eating it or burying it, one or the other. Still, we wonder, what's a man thinking and feeling when he don't never come to the door, don't never say thank you, sits in his house all day with his shades pulled, sits there hating himself, I'll bet, knows if he keeps up the way he was doing, he'll lose his job, and then he'll lose everything, trailer, dogs, guns. Doc Murphy told me that he'd heard Judd was healing nicely, his body, that is. It would take some time for that leg to heal, but the visiting nurse said he was moving around a whole lot better than he had been. I'm thinking about Shiloh, and when I first saw him, all slunk down in the brush, so trembly and scared of me he couldn't stop shaking. Wouldn't even let me pet him, just crawled away on his belly. No trust left in him at all. I'm thinking, too, of the other 3 dogs of Judd's, the way he chained them up, so fearful something or somebody was going to come along and start a fight they couldn't win, all snarling and snapping, trying to keep themselves from being hurt. And now that we got Judd all shut up in his trailer, I'm thinking how slowly, a little bit at a time, we got to teach him kindness. He was taking the food we left for him. That was a start. Seemed like the only thing I could think of to write about in my notes to Judd was about Shiloh. Thinking back on things, it was the only thing we both cared about. Though I guess we cared about Shiloh in different ways. I told him how much Shiloh weighed now when we took him to the vet, how we're not supposed to feed him table scraps, but buy him this balanced dog food, make his coat shiny. I told how we laughed ourselves sick once watching Shiloh take off after a mole burrowing along just beneath the ground. As fast as Shiloh could dig, that mole was tunneling away from him. Every last thing Shiloh ever did that would interest a live body in the least, I put down on paper. I figure if a man don't get any other letters, he's got to be interested in the only ones he gets. The blinds come up in Judd's trailer. Nobody's seen him at the window yet, but he can't hardly keep from seeing out. One day I decide that all these notes I've been writing about Shiloh are just so much noise, just writing around and around what it is I really want to say to Judd. And what I really want to say is, here's this little dog he kicked and cussed and starved, so scared of Judd he won't never even cross the bridge leading to the road Judd's house is on. Yet one night he meets up with Judd's truck out on the road. I still don't know whether Judd had been drunk and had hit the pothole the wrong way, or whether he'd seen Shiloh trotting down the road and was trying to hit him. But here's this man pinned under his truck at the bottom of a bank, dead of night, quarter-mile from any house except ours, and Shiloh could have sneaked on home without a sound. Judd could have died in that wreck that night. He might have, too. Nobody would have discovered him till the next morning, and maybe not even then. But instead, the dog starts crying and whining, scared as he is of getting within 100 feet of Judd Travers, and wakes us up. I don't expect Judd to jump up and down, I say in my letter. Shiloh expects no reward. Judd don't have to go around praising my dog. I just think he ought to know that it wasn't my dad and me who saved him that night. It was Shiloh. I stick the note under the rubber band on the raisin rolls I package up for Dad to put on Judd's doorstep the next afternoon. A day goes by, 2 days, and then, on a Friday afternoon when Dad gets home from work, I say to him, I want to go see Judd Travers. Now, Marty, Dad says. He's still sitting in the Jeep. You know what happened last time. What makes you think I'll let you in? Nothing. I just want to try is all I say. I don't want to go on fighting with Judd and worrying myself sick about Shiloh. Well, hop in. Might as well go now as later, he says. Wait a minute. I'm taking something, I say. And I go back to the porch where Shiloh is sitting, happy as a beetle on a rosebud, and gather him up in my arms. We're going visiting, I say. Shiloh licks my face. Ooh.